Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Rhino Exploration. My name is Zach. Today we are doing a updated walk around video of the Jeep. Since we've done all these upgrades, I figured it is about time to show you guys everything that's happened to the Jeep since the last time we did the walk around back in Hawaii when we first started doing everything. So stay tuned, guys. So, we are going to be doing that walk around video. Like I said, we're actually going to start here in a second. A few things that we are not going to go over on the Jeep today. I decided that we're not going to really talk about them after this point because nothing has changed about it. So, some of the things we're not going to go over are the wheels and tires and the suspension. They are all stock. That has not changed since I bought the Jeep. It is going to change later on in the future. For now, we're not going to touch upon it because I'm just going to wheel the Jeep in stock form for a little bit, get a better feel for what really needs to be done, and then we will figure out what kind of suspension, wheel, and tires that we want to put on the Jeep later on. But for now, it's all stock. That has not changed. So we will not be touching it past this point in the video, guys. The other aspect we are not going to touch upon is the engine. The engine is still the same 2.0 turbo liter, 4-cylinder engine. That hasn't changed. I haven't done any upgrading to the engine. We will go underneath the hood. There are a few things that have been put into the engine bay for the electronical purposes, for running like the switches and stuff like that. We will go over that, but nothing about the engine itself has changed. I am not messing with the engine. I'm leaving it alone. So we will not be covering the engine also in this video past this point. I hope you understand. So we're actually going to start from the front of the Jeep and work our way back. Okay guys, starting with the very front of the Jeep here. So the headlights are still the stock LED headlights that came with the Jeep. I haven't changed those. I actually really like them. And also the fog lamps on the Jeep are still the LED fog lamps. I haven't changed those either. They work really well. I find that they're very bright. Some of the other things that we have changed about the front though is we have installed our KC Slim lights that are on the front bumper. I love these lights so far. I have taken it out at night and they are so bright, and they help illuminate the trail so well that I'm able to see extra things. And the fact that I can adjust these a little bit, so if I want to I can turn them out and be ditch lights also, is really nice. The other thing that we have added that you guys have also seen is the Smittybuilt Winch. This is the X2O 10,000 pound winch by Smittybuilt. It's an all waterproof winch, and I am running the synthetic line on the winch. You don't want the steel line because if it was to snap, it's got all that kinetic energy. It could fly back. With the synthetic line, if it snaps, all that kinetic energy is basically released and it just kind of drops. There's the likelihood of it coming back is minimal. So the front plate for the winch here did come with the winch itself, so it's not a factor 55 or anything. It is just what came with the Smittybuilt winch. Now the Smittybuilt winch is sitting on a Bulldog winch plate. I found that winch plate, after a bunch of research, there were several that worked with the steel bumper, because I like the steel bumper and I wanted a winch plate that would work with the steel bumper. I found that the Bulldog one was more affordable for my purposes and worked just fine. And as you guys saw in the install video, installing the winch plate wasn't too bad. The winch, on the other hand, it had its ups and downs, but overall it's in there. I'm very happy with it. I have not had to use the winch yet. We've been on a couple trails so far since this installation, and so far, thankfully I've not had to use the winch, but I've also been very careful. So let's talk about the hood for a second, okay? There's been a couple things on here. The one thing you're probably noticing is the ghost antenna for the Midland radio that I installed, which we will get to what kind of radio it was from Midland when we get inside the Jeep. But I did install this right here. I do have a bracket on the way to move this from here off to the side, because if I have to open the hood up all the way, I have to disconnect this off of here because the hood will not lay flat up against the windshield. because this starts to impede onto here, and I don't want to scratch up, you know, the Jeep any more than the pinstripes that already come. The one other thing I want to talk about up here are these hood louvers. They are the stock hood louvers, but what I have found since moving is that they leak, and they pop out very easily under the hood. You can easily pop these out. But what I found was the seal that Jeep puts on these from the factory, I guess, you know, dry rotted, got really bad in Hawaii. So when I moved here and we got all that snow, the cold just seemed to destroy the rest of the seal that was around it. So I couldn't figure out why I was finding all this water in the engine bay that was frozen after a snowstorm, and it would start melting, and I discovered that the seal on these had gone bad. So I had to put brand new weather stripping seal around these and push it down. So they are now waterproofed again. But it was just something I wanted to mention about this, because it was an unknown thing to me until I was working under the Jeep doing all these installs, going, why is there water, you know, freezing on the battery and stuff like that? There should be no water under the hood. That was why. So if you're ever figuring out why there's water under your hood, you might want to check the seals around these little hood louvers. Okay guys, here's a better view of the ghost antenna. So when I bought the Midland radio, it came with two different kinds of antennas, because it kind of was this little kit that I bought, because it came with the ghost antenna, because that's what I wanted. Because the other one is that magnet antenna. You can run it, stick it on, you know, the hood or wherever you want it, and it magnetizes to the Jeep. I wanted something a little more permanent that was on the Jeep, so that's why that is there. The other thing that we've done is, we did this a while back in Hawaii. We have installed a shorter antenna that keeps it out of the way. You know, the old factory one set way up here. We've now shortened it. It's kind of tucked up more out of the way. The chances of hitting it on a tree and stuff like that are much slimmer, and I actually like it. It works just as well as the, you know, the stock OEM antenna, but I love the fact that it's up out of the way. Under the hood here, we have where I hooked up the AUX Beam, you know, basically the brains for the AUX Beam switches. Okay, so I have all the wires run. They run into the Jeep through the firewall, basically right underneath the passenger seat. But this is where I installed it, and everything's just right up here under this panel. I have where I can install the switches. There's 8 different switches, and I found that this was the best place to install it. That wasn't trying to get everything on the other side of the engine bay. It just all sat here near the battery and up near the fuse box. This basic fuse breaker is part of the switch system, and then it all just kind of runs. It's a little bit messy under here when it comes to the wires, I will admit. They are generally cleaned up. They all can be easily disconnected and moved, and they're out of the way. And this looks actually a lot better than I previously had it. It used to have wires kind of everywhere because I was still trying to organize them all. And Jeep they cram a lot in the front of these Jeeps. There's not a lot of space, and with it, space is kind of a luxury. So wherever you can kind of fit it at times and keep it looking nice is what I was trying to do. And so I found that placing it here and having the wires run under and into the firewall on the passenger side was easier. I know a lot of people like running it through the driver's side firewall, but for me, the passenger side is the best. So that is what it looks like here under the hood, guys. Alright guys, and in the back of the Jeep, you all saw me install it, is the Tailgator Table. I love this thing. I have used it the past couple times I've been on the trail, and it works fantastically. It was a super easy install. Now we did have, you know, there was comments in the installation video, did I install the weather stripping? Yes, I ended up going back in after I was done filming and installing the weather stripping. It basically, I had a Muppet moment. I stuck a box on top of the weather stripping, couldn't figure out where it was, and just said, we're just going to install it without it, and then I found it later when I cleaned up. So it is installed. The weather stripping is installed on here, and if we open it, some of the things I love about this table, guys, is the bamboo cutting board. It is so strong, and it just looks really good. I've put some heavy things on here so far, and it holds up really well, just like the table itself. The table does not rattle at all on the trail. It is dead silent. I don't even know it's back there. You don't hear any kind of rattling or anything of that nature. And I absolutely love it. And the magnet for the cutting, you know, for hanging up your knives, things like that, for if you're at camp and cooking, or that's just kind of where you're going to store them. I have not tested it. I have put some knives up there, so I have tested it in that sense, but I have not left anything back here while I'm cooking and things like that. I haven't gone on any longer trips just yet. That is to come. But so far, I'm super, super happy with this table. I can't wait to give you guys a more in-depth review. But, you know, there are other YouTubers out there that have been using the same exact table on their Jeeps, and they love it. And so far, I have had the same exact results as them, and it has been absolutely fantastic. So now we're here in the Jeep. There have only been a few upgrades since the last time you guys saw it. We still have our Bulletpoint mounting solutions phone mount. I have the GoPro mount, and I have the iPad mount. I don't have the iPad mount in here at the moment. It's actually at home. But we do have it, and it all kind of goes up here. I'm still figuring out, now that I'm here in Colorado and off-roading, kind of how I want it set up. I'm actually going to change it around a little bit. I think I'm going to move the phone mount over to where I put the iPad and just leave it so the GoPro's here so it's not blocking me when I'm talking to you guys on the trails. But we do have those still in here. The other thing we have installed is the AUX Beam SwitchControl, where the buttons are. And that is sitting right here underneath the middle console. If you remember, at one point I had an S-Pod switches stuck in here, and the whole S-Pod, basically, it was a bit of a disaster with the S-Pod. So I got the Aux Beam system, and I mounted one of the brackets and then mounted the Aux Beam controls onto that bracket right over top of where the S-Pod switches were. So it kind of cleaned that up because it was looking a little bad. But that's where they are sitting, and I have been absolutely happy with the Aux Beam system. It was super inexpensive off of Amazon. And they are not a sponsor of the channel in any way. Neither is Bulletpoint Mounting or anything that I've talked about. There are no sponsors of the channel, but I absolutely love this switch system. It's super easy to connect things to the switches. The buttons work every single time, and it gives me the freedom to be able to put so many different things onto the Jeep and have this controls right here. So the other thing that we do have installed in the Jeep is the Midland radio. It is their MXT 1500 15 watt radio. I've used it a couple times so far, and it's been fantastic. It works great. It's got 22 different channels you can go through. It is a GMRS radio, and the install was super, super easy. I actually stuck it on top, or I hung it off of the Molle panel solutions that I have running across the middle of the Jeep in the front here, and it works great. I absolutely love it being right there. It keeps it out of the way of places down below, so I'm not hitting it with my legs. It's up on the Molle panel, and I didn't have anything up there anyways, so it keeps out of the way. It allows me to be able to hear what's coming out of the speakers. I'm hard of hearing as it is, so having it right there, I can hear everything coming over the radio. The one issue I have, guys, is this, basically the walkie-talkie part of the radio. It's just in my way, and it's a little annoying. When I'm driving and stuff, it doesn't bug me on the roads, but when you're off-roading, that swings and gets in your way. It's kind of in my way for when I'm talking to you guys, and it just shows up in the back mirror. I don't know, it's just a little annoying. I'm still getting used to it being there, but I think I want to hang it up a different way to where at least this is kind of up out of the way more, because I don't have to pull the radio part down too far to be able to talk into it, because it's hanging right up near my head. But otherwise, I've been completely happy with the Midland radio. I'm so glad that I got that. I actually found it on Amazon, so it was a great deal. So the only other thing that has been installed in here inside the Jeep itself was that Tazer JL Mini, and that is installed into the computer system. It's always plugged in, and those features that I changed and was able to manipulate about the Jeep so far, it's been what, 2 weeks of having it on there. It's been great. I've been absolutely happy with it. I've been able to reset the the tire ratio, because I found out in the computer it had the wrong tire ratio for the stock tires, and I was able to change just a few other little features that made my life easier. Like the start stop feature is always off. I get in the Jeep, I turn it on, it's off. It doesn't, I don't have to press a button, it doesn't activate, it's just off. The other thing that's been super nice is that I don't have the little seatbelt dinging telling me that no one has their seatbelt on if I'm off-roading and don't have the seatbelt connected. It doesn't beep at me too much, after a while if the door's open and you have it in run mode only. It's just been certain little things like that that have just made life so much easier and just made me happier. I'm just happy that I don't have to hear certain things or have to press certain buttons every time you get in the Jeep. So I've actually been very happy with it. We still got some ways to go before I give a full in-depth review on it, but we're getting there with it. I'm still pretty happy with how everything has been so far. Well guys, that has been the walk around update of the Jeep. That is everything that's been done to it so far, and I have been very happy with everything. Certain upgrades that we've done, it's only been there for either a week or 2 weeks, and I haven't fully gotten to use them all the way, but we're going to. We have a few trips planned for this month, because it is the beginning of March. We do have some plans. We're going to go down to New Mexico. I got some wheeling to do there, and at the end of this month we are going to be going to Easter Jeep Safari out in Utah, so that's going to be a lot of fun. So I'll be really able to put things to the test and be able to inform you guys on whether I'm really liking it or not, or if there's been issues that have arisen. But that has been the Jeep. The Jeep is, for the moment in time, for at least the next couple months, it is done in things that are going to be done to it. If you guys have any suggestions on what else you think would go really well on the Jeep, or things that you've installed on your Jeeps that you like and think that I might enjoy, please leave it down in the comments section. I would love to hear from you guys and knowing what you guys are using or things that you think would be really beneficial. Please don't put anything about the suspension, wheels, and tires. They're coming. I gotta do research. I know, guys. Having that extra clearance from factory state is a big thing and allows you more freedom on the trails to do different things. It's coming. It's just not in the budget at the moment, but we will get there. So thank you guys for joining me. If you are new to the channel, please go check out some of the other videos. If you guys have been with me for a little bit, thank you. I appreciate you guys. It is awesome having you guys around. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you guys next time.